So guys, in section 6, we're going to take just one section to work with both the surface area and the volume of a sphere. So we've got two goals this section. All right, we're going to find the surface area of a sphere and the volume of a sphere. All right, and then use those to solve problems. So a sphere, what is it? Well, it's a ball. Okay, three-dimensional circle. Think of it as a globe. Kind of draw one like this. The key is going to be that make it look three-dimensional. Okay, so I'm going to draw the hemisphere there. All right, the big thing about this is from that center point, from the center, like picture that as the Death Star, right, the center of the Death Star, right, from anywhere in there to any of the edges is the radius of that sphere, right, and all the way around in all directions is the exact same. So that radius is going to be really the only thing we're working with. Okay, so to find the surface area of a sphere, you're going to use the formula 4 pi r squared. R is the radius, right? S is obviously surface area. And the volume is 4 thirds pi r cubed. R, once again, the radius. Okay. One thing to notice about this is it's going to be in, the surface area is going to be in square units. Okay, so whatever your units are, square units, just like everything else. And the volume will be in cubic units. Okay, that'll be the big difference. That's really it. It's pretty simple. There's only one variable we need to find, but I'll show you some examples of how I'm gonna make it difficult for you. Okay, so to start, we're just gonna find the surface area and the volume of a sphere with radius 4. So pretty straightforward. All right, we're gonna use the surface area equation, 4 pi r squared, and the volume, 4 thirds pi r cubed. Okay, so for the surface area, we've got 4 pi times 4 squared. Well, 4 squared is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So S equals 64 pi square centimeters. Leave pi in your answer. Always. Always. Okay, the volume, 4 thirds pi times 4 cubed. Well, 4 cubed is 64. So you can just type in your calculator, 64 times 4 divided by 3. And you get 85.3, or 256 pi over 3 cubic centimeters. Okay? Pretty straightforward there. Okay? Now, the circumference of a great circle. A great circle is just a circle that basically cuts directly through a sphere in half. So that circle that I drew on the other page, right, like this little guy, that would be a great circle, right? It cuts it in half. So the center of that circle is also the center of the sphere. Okay, so the circumference of that circle is 15.5 pi. We're going to find the surface area of the sphere. So if the circumference of that circle, this C is, circumference of that circle is 15.5 pi, we can use that to find the radius, okay? Because the circumference is 2 pi r, okay? So since we know the circumference is 15.5 pi equals 2 pi r, okay, the pi's just cancel each other out. You can just do 15.5 divided by 2, and you get the radius is 7.75 meters. Okay, now with that, we can find the surface area. So the surface area formula, 4 pi r is 7.75 squared. So 7.75 squared is 60.0625. Multiply that by 4, and we get S equals 240.25 pi square meters. Okay, so that's how you're going to use a great circle. This is a great circle, right? It's a circle that cuts right through the center of a sphere. All right, leather ball has a diameter of 20 inches. What's the surface area of the ball in feet? All right, so we have the diameter. Since we have the diameter, we can also get the radius. It's 10. With that, we can find the surface area, 4 pi 10 squared. S equals 400 pi square inches. Okay? Because 10 squared is 100, 100 times 4 is 400. Leave pi in your answer, always. And number 4. All right, so we have a cylinder with radius 2 meters, or 2 centimeters, and height 16 centimeters is melted down to mold a sphere. What's the radius of the sphere? So this situation, we've got cylinder, got to use previous knowledge here. Cylinder, radius 2, and height 16. Okay, we want to know if you melt that down and liquefy it, so get all the space in the inside, hint, hint, volume, right, and basically mush it all together to create a sphere or a ball, right, what's that radius of that sphere going to be? So if we find the volume of this, right, the volume of this is going to have to be equal to the volume of that, right, because if you melt all that down, even though the shape's changing, the space inside is going to be the same. Right, so if we find the volume of the cylinder, that'll give us the volume of our sphere, and then we can use that volume to work backwards and find the radius. Let me show you how that works. So remember that the volume of the cylinder is pi r squared h. This is a cylinder. Okay, volume of the cylinder. So the volume of that cylinder is going to be pi times 2 squared times 16. So we have 4 times 16 is 64 pi. Now the volume of that cylinder, like I said, is the exact same thing as the volume of the sphere. So we're going to use the volume of our sphere equation, 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, but we don't have the radius yet, we have the volume. So the volume is 64 pi, and we're going to try to find out what the radius is. Okay, so our pi's cancel out, you have one on each side, you can divide it over. Now you can multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 4/3. Multiply by 3/4 to both sides. Okay, so those will go away. So 64 times 3 divided by 4 is 48. So 48 equals r cubed. So we just have to find the cube root of that. So you can type in your calculator. The cube root, the way you get to the cube root in your calculator is hit math. Go down to the fourth one down, you see the little cube root sign. Hit enter, type in 48, and you can get approximate value. R is about 3.6 centimeters. Okay, now the last problem here is going to be another melty problem. Okay, so we're going to start with a sphere. That we have a 4-inch diameter sphere. Okay, so we have this sphere. We have the diameter, so I'm just going to go straight, convert it right to radius. Right, the radius is 2. Melt it down, pour it into a cylindrical 2-inch diameter. So this diameter, or this radius, is just going to be 1 inch. Right, we gotta figure out how tall we can make that candle. What's height going to be? Okay, so we're going to work the same volume again. Once again, volume of this is going to be equal to the volume of that. So the volume of our sphere is 4/3 times pi times the radius, which is 2 cubed. Right, so 2 cubed is 8. 8 times 4 divided by 3 is 32 over 3. So the volume of our sphere is 32 pi over 3 cubic inches. Okay, now we can use that because we know that's going to be the same for the volume of this cylinder. Okay, so the volume of our cylinder, that's very not right. Okay, cylinder is pi r squared h. Okay, now we have the volume, 32 pi over 3 equals pi times we have the radius is 1. We don't know what h is. Okay, well 1 squared is just 1, so that's really kind of a non-factor. Okay, so all we have to do is divide both sides by pi, cancel those pi's out, and we have h equals 32 over 3 inches, or 10.7 if you want to round. Okay, so that's it for that section.